And there they go.
All right, joining us now, and his face is half covered. Off to a great start already. There we go.
There you go. There you go. Hi, guys.
Voice of
What's
Golden Gate
up,
Fields.
Matt?
Simulcast host as well, so if you play Golden Gate in between the races, Matt's the one on the mic giving you advice about what's going on. Matt, thank you for joining us. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me. Yeah, you know, they say that I have a decent enough voice. Face for TV, I don't know. So even your graphics guy is giving me a signal here. At least he's being honest, right?
Matt, before we get into it, just had a couple of angles, handicapping angles we wanted to ask you about. You are the expert for it. Mike's our local expert. You are the true expert. So favorite handicapping angles when it comes to Golden Gate? If it's a new player, hasn't been to the track before, and it's synthetic instead of dirt, what would you recommend for him?
You know, I think that a horse that's patient and is tactical it's very important. If you have a horse on the Tapeta, for example, that on dirt, for example, they're rank or they're a little bit aggressive, that doesn't always fare well for the Tapeta. If you have a horse that's nice and relaxed, that's a good thing. So if you get a horse from Southern California, for example, on the Tapeta, and they're known to be a little bit of a runoff or has a tough time settling down, I really think that's a negative. And I think that really when you're looking at these races, you have to remember that whether it's turf or Tapeta, these races at Golden Gate are very trip dependent. Sometimes the best horses don't always win here. Sometimes the horses with the best trips win. And especially, and we'll talk about in the San Francisco Mile on the turf later on, I mean, that's going to be a race that the winner's probably going to get a good trip, and you're probably going to have a few horses that don't get good trips that could have won that don't win. So I would say when you're looking at these races, try to figure out who's going to get the best trip, and that's very important.
I love it, man. It's like we had a pre-production meeting here because you're leading right into my first question for you. Okay. How hard is it to win from the 14 post over that turf course going a mile? I mean, we've got a lot of the favorites in that first race who are set up outside. It makes it a lot harder to get a trip at a lot of places. What kind of run-up can we expect into that first turn? And how often do you see horses, let's say from the 8, 9, 10 outside win races going a mile over Golden Gate's turf?
Yeah, I mean, it's about, I would say, a little over a furlong into the first turn. The turns are fairly tight here at Golden Gate Fields. It's the same configuration as Santa Anita. It's the same configuration as Del Mar here in California, 7/8 turf track. On the same token, the turns I think are a little bit tighter here, and I've only seen one race where we've had 14 horses, and I wasn't actually calling the race, and they were coming out of the chute, a mile and a 16th on the turf, and the 14 hole did that horse no favors. I think it's going to be very difficult to win from out there, and I think that even though the field will be spread out, it's going to be packed up enough to where you're going to be caught wide into that turn, I think, from the outside.
So that is a good angle, is be very wary when you get far outside going to turns. Yeah. What's a really overused angle that you might hear public touts or even just the public in general say, oh, I love this angle, this angle. You're like, that doesn't actually really work that well at Golden Gate.
I would say, well, this one is a little bit, it doesn't work at Golden Gate, and it doesn't work as much for me. I think it's a very hit or miss angle as the first time gelding angle. And the reason is specifically at Golden Gate, at a place like Keeneland, Santa Anita, Belmont, usually you can see a first time gelding horse improve, and typically they can do that anywhere. At Golden Gate, if you've got, for example, a claiming horse or just a decent enough horse that's a first-time gelding, I think it's a very hit or miss angle here. I think, sometimes horses really improve. Most of the time, I don't think it does that much, really. So that's sort of my overused angle. It can be effective, but it's something that's very hit or miss, and I think that's anywhere.
I think that's a great one. I think people overplay it in claiming races, especially when you're at the higher levels and you geld a horse and then run them back into stakes or N2X or things like that. It makes a ton of sense. When you geld a horse and drop it for 5K, I mean, right. you really expect that big of a jump. It's definitely a good point there. One that I hear all the time is that speed over the synthetic is good. That closers, it's tough for closers to win at Golden Gate. When I watch, I don't necessarily see that large of a bias over the main track. What do you think about how the main track plays? We've got a lot of speed horses here in one of the stakes races. Is speed good there? Is it a pretty fair track?
What's really interesting is when I first got here, that was 6 years ago, when I was just the paddock analyst. I just would handicap before the races. Frank Miramati was calling here at the time. And the speed was not good. You had to get a clear lead. It had to be an easy lead. If there was any sort of duel on the lead, any sort of contentious pace, you weren't winning. I was always looking for horses off the pace. Now you see a lot of speed horses go gate to wire, and I think it's a lot more fair. I wouldn't say that there's necessarily a speed bias every day. Have I seen a speed bias track for a race day? Sure. But I wouldn't say that's the case all the time. And I've also seen certain tracks that it plays towards off the pace horses. So it can even change during the day, these synthetic surfaces, really. So, but I would caution watching a few races, seeing, okay, how's this track playing today? And then going from there when you're ready to make your money.
Mike, do you have anything else? You ready to dive into this?
I got one more. Then I'm done. Sneaky trainers. Like everyone knows Jonathan Wong, right? Everyone knows to play Jonathan Wong. People play horses coming from the South a lot. You'll see those trainers get played. Who doesn't take enough money in these pools from a training perspective? Who are some trainers that we should kind of take a second look at when we're playing Golden Gate?
One trainer that's very under the radar is Jack Steiner, and he's got a good percentage on the page. His horses can get bet. It's not that they don't get bet, but he typically gets overlooked. And Jonathan's a good horseman. Jonathan, for example, he is very good at spotting his horses. But at times, and this is not a knock on Jonathan, and Jonathan, I've talked to him about it, and he'll even say, there are times where his horses get overbet, and you may look and you might gravitate towards his horses. You might say, oh, well, because it's Wong's horse, he must be ready to run a winning race. Sometimes they get overbet, and sometimes they go off at underlays, and sometimes they lose. And we've got good trainers here. I mean, Jack Steiner, one of them. Tim McCanna, he's having a really good meet. Steve Sherman's always been a household name here. Blaine Wright, his horses sometimes get overlooked in the betting pools, and Blaine can come with a price every now and then. And Jamie Thomas, he's another one that sometimes his horses can get overlooked as well. So those are just some names of trainers that are alternatives. People are going to easily gravitate towards Jonathan's horses, but they're not unbeatable either. And you see some of these favorites of his get beat at low odds, and maybe they shouldn't be that low, and the payoffs increase because of it.
I love it. I didn't use either of the Steiner horses, so I might be in trouble here. We got two of them in the late pick four. But I do like the Blaine Wright thing. We'll get to that one soon.
Okay. I was going to say, you put smiles on both our faces talking about those trainers for different reasons.
Beautiful. That's my job, to put smiles on your faces. That's why I'm here.
This has been a presentation of RacingDudes.com, your destination for all things horse racing and sports betting. Whether you want free winners, expert insider picks, up-to-the-minute trackside weather reports, or podcasts and videos for bettors of all skill levels, never make another wager without visiting the Racing Dudes. First,